Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at uenradio.com.
Hello and good afternoon. We want to welcome you on this beautiful summer July day. It's July, can you believe it? And we are Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul, and we are invigorating talk and everything that has to do with well-being. We have a magnificent show for you today, so we hope you'll stay with us all the way through. I would like to tell you a few things about how you can become part of the show today. So we are Adele and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul. You can go to our Facebook page and go straight there because we are streaming live, and you can make a comment because we keep it open during the show. Or you can go ahead and ask a question and we'll answer it for you. Or you can call us at area code 323-284-7826. So there you have it. That's where we like to get our audience involved. So we want you to become part of this conversation. It's going to be a good one today. To start things off, I am one of your co-hosts. I am Debbie Carlin Boyle. I am certified as a personal trainer, fitness instructor, and an integrative nutrition, health, and wellness coach. And I like to help people get balance in their life with everything that feeds us in addition to the food on our plate. And then sitting to my left over here is my wonderful co-host.
Hi, I'm Lady Jones, and I'm a certified transformational coach and a 3 principles practitioner, and I help my clients achieve psychological well-being regardless of their external circumstances. And today we have an amazing show. It's truly inspirational, and we're going to shine the light on the challenges that our at-risk youth face in today's society, which are unfortunately increasing. And we're so honored to be joined by 3 actually, sorry.
Yeah, we have an extra guest today.
Yes, we have an extra guest. 3 extraordinary men who do incredible work with their foundations, and what they do is they have mentorship programs. And they've been able to help thousands of young people avoid getting lost in the system, resist the urge of joining gangs, or return to a life of crime after incarceration. And they do this by instilling a sense of positive sense of self, new life skills, and new skills regarding career, and basically hope for a brighter future. So, please welcome former Los Angeles County Sheriff Clyde Terry of Emerging Leaders Academy, and Jordan DeBear, founder of Anything is Possible Foundation, and his wonderful son, and I'm going to butcher your name, so I'm going to ask you to say it for me. Kaz DeBear. And you are also one of the leaders in the foundation. So welcome all of you. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us.
Yes, we really do appreciate all of you coming today.
Thank you.
You know, and we usually, Clyde has been a guest on one of our shows before, and we have talked about the tremendous work that you've done, and you actually brought somebody with you who changed their life completely because of your program. But what we want to do is just talk a little bit about what your background and what brought you to create Emerging Leaders Academy, and then we'll kind of go down the line and do that with each of you, and then we'll go back and talk about what you're doing today and the programs and how it's evolved over the years, those kinds of things, if we could. So, Clyde, you're up.
Well, I was, my route was joining the military as an escape from, my environment. Like I knew I needed to do something, and so I went to the Marines, and little did I know that a homeless guy would be the person who would change the trajectory of my life. I was at the 10th year of my career in the Marines, and I got into an argument with a Honolulu police officer, and which is a no-no if you're in the Marines, right? You don't get into it with the police. And there was a homeless black guy in Hawaii, right, sitting on the wall. I'll never forget. He was like sitting on the wall in front of Jack in the Box, and another police officer pulls up and sees that this isn't going very well, and he says, "Look, man, go on about your way." I guess he realized his partner wasn't having a good day. I don't know what it was, but as I'm walking back to my car, I'm fuming, and the black guy jumps off the wall and starts to walk away, and he looks at me. He says, "Brother, if you don't do something about it, you're part of the problem," and disappeared. Right. That was on a Friday night, Saturday night for like Sunday, like, it was almost midnight. And on Monday, my buddy walks in and drops the Navy Times on the desk, and I open it up, and LA County Sheriff's is hiring, and something said call, and I called, and the rest is history, and
Did something about it.
yeah. And
Wow.
but if you had asked me to list 1,000 things I would do in my life, the police
That
wouldn't have been it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was not. If you said list 1,000, if you said list 1,001, still wouldn't have been it.
So
right?
just in that space from Friday to Monday, 2 days, your life changed course dramatically.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And so it just really got me present to, you never know who's going to impact your life, because this is a homeless guy. I mean, like, I never saw the guy again. And like, I looked at him, like, because I was disgusted that he would even, like, I was just in a bad space at the moment. And then I turned around and he wasn't there anymore. So
Little angel that popped in
Yeah.
to
Earth
get you on
angel.
track. Yeah,
Yeah.
an earth
Absolutely.
angel.
So, for 17 years of my career, it was about, putting the bad guy away, so to speak, because that's how I've been trained and conditioned, and we don't realize how much we're trained and conditioned when you get into something. And a young kid, I'd been to Iraq, and I'd worked in Compton and Watts most of my career, and I'd been to Iraq, and I'd seen a lot of stuff there, and I came back to LA, and I was in the field, and a young kid was killed, and it just had the hugest impact on my life. And again, it's like those moment by moment, those like momentary things that just cause a different
Pivotal
trajectory in your life.
moments.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, and I, whatever you believe in, God, creator, universe, or whatever, I just said, look, if there's got to be something we can do, because, I came on 17 years before, when I came on 17 years ago, or at that time, 17 years, we had 19,000 people in custody. Here it is in 2000. So that's 1991. Here's 2007. We have 19,000 people in custody. So whatever we're doing is not working. And so I was like, God, creator, show me something. And, I guess God has a sense of humor. So
Yes, she does.
Yeah, right. and so emerging leaders emerged, right? And so, but if you'd asked me prior to that, what would I be doing with people coming out of prison? I would have said put them back. And in that process over the last several years, since 2009, I've had Aryan Brotherhood, neo-Nazis, I had Mexican Mafia, I've had Bloods and Crips that have walked into my room and said, they forgot who I was, and they got the message, and it was really about being someone who can transcend all of the worldly stuff and just really get connected to another person's spirit, and that's been the magic of our program. And then what Jordan called me and said, hey, we're doing this, would you be willing to be a part of it? And I was like before he could even finish, I was like, something in my spirit just said yes. And I stopped him. I was like, I don't even know what you're asking me, but I'm a yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so, because I know that working with the fathers, but you have fathers, and we have fathers and mothers that go to prison, and they're gone for 12, 13 years, sometimes 20 years. Maybe that kid was a year old when the father went to prison, so there's no connection. So when the father comes home just trying to tell the kid to do something,
the kid, respect to do it.
Yeah, because it's like, well, who are you to come and tell me? And so what we get to do is bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so important. So Jordan,
Yeah.
Yes.
We're
let's
gonna get back to
yeah,
that.
we're coming back to
Okay.
what
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do, and
Yeah.
but you segued us right into Jordan. Tell us about your background and how you got into your organization and what it's called and what you do today.
So my background is quite different than Clyde's. There's no military involved. So how Anything is Possible Foundation was created was about 3 years ago. I had a friend, and he was actually having an affair on his wife, and he had a whole nother life going on. And in my mind, I was complaining about him, and I was what's this guy doing? What's he doing with his life? And I stopped myself, and I said, okay, you've got all kinds of things to say about this guy. What are you doing with your life?
Wow.
What do you got going on? And,
Same kind of thing that Clyde did.
Yeah.
It wasn't about you turning around to the homeless person and saying something. It was about you taking action for yourself and noticing. Interesting.
Yeah.
Same.
Can we
same.
go back a little bit though? Because I know when I was reading your bio, there was stuff that you were doing when you were doing karate and things like that that
Yes.
actually sort of, I think, primed you for some of this work you did. So give us a
For
little
sure.
bit background.
Did
of
you
how
grow up
got-
out here?
So I was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley.
Oh, me too.
Were you?
Well, I was born here, but raised in the San Fernando Valley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Encino.
So I went to UCLA. While going to UCLA, I worked at the LAUSD. I was a teacher's assistant for 2 to 4 year olds. And
Tough one.
so,
Well,
yeah.
Boy.
I love that.
So at a
age.
young age, I had experience with children. I went on to coaching soccer and I trained in the martial arts for pretty much my entire childhood. Received my black belt at the age of 15, and I was teaching karate alongside my sensei for many years. So and then I got into graduating UCLA. Then I got into business. So that's my background.
Yeah, but you talked a little bit in on the website about how you felt about being one of the only positive male role models for some of these children,
Yeah, that's-
and you were
Oh,
aware
yes.
of that at the time.
That was a
Yeah,
realization for
at
you.
the Children's Center in the LAUSD. Yeah, it was very clear that there was many fathers missing, and so I had the opportunity to be a father figure to many of these children.
Were their fathers missing because they were never present, they were away because they were serving or incarcerated, for all different reasons? Or
It was for all
mostly-
different reasons. Yeah, and sometimes we weren't able to get the details of it because we were employed by the school system.
Right.
So they wouldn't always give us that info. But yeah, it was a combination of
They were fatherless.
moving away, drugs, being incarcerated. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so we see the roots of where your sensibilities started cultivating. So now, how about you? How did you get to
Because,
get involved in your father's
yes,
Yeah.
foundation. Your dad.
Yeah, so we've been in a lot of conversations, prior to the creation of AIPF. A lot of conversations, just really deep and about creating your life, and not allowing the circumstances to dictate where your life goes. I personally I also do like coaching, fitness coaching, and life coaching, a combination. And so I have a little bit of experience with that, and I've had a lot of training in that realm of life coaching, leadership training, development training. And so, of course, when my dad called me to tell me about AIPF, I was a yes. But yeah, that's
So you were primed from an early age.
Yes.
Yeah,
You had a good
with
influence.
him too, so,
Yeah.
you know.
That's
And tell us
wonderful.
again what AIPF stands for.
Anything is Possible Foundation.
Anything is Possible Foundation. Now, going back to you, Jordan.
Yes.
How long has the foundation been around? And when you realized, what am I doing with my life? How did that happen?
So when I realized, what am I doing with my life? You're sitting here complaining about this guy. What
Yeah.
are you doing? What are you up to? It then came to me, what kind of legacy are you going to leave? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to take on something that's bigger than yourself. And I looked and saw, what do I love? What's important to me? And immediately the youth came up. And so, one thing led to another. I created the name, consulted with my wife. She was on board, of course, 100%. And Anything is Possible Foundation was born. And when it was born in the beginning stages, it was for men mentoring youth that were missing their fathers. And then as we started to spread the word, we started to see that it was bigger than that, right? So now it's mentoring all youth.
Right.
men and women.
And women.
Yes.
So
mentoring.
it's women mentoring
Yes.
women and men, kind of
Well,
like big
actually-
brother, big sisters,
Yeah.
similar
Similar.
to that.
Yes. Different conversation and similar.
Yeah, I can
I was-
see that through your program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
That's a
gonna
different
ask, though,
approach.
Yes.
I mean, it's really important. I mean, okay, the you know, the parent of your same sex parent is pivotal in your development, but also the parent of the opposite sex is very important.
Very
I
important.
mean, you know, having grown up without a father myself, it definitely left a legacy
Yeah.
of who I chose to be with, unavailable men.
Right.
But so do you do that as well?
Yes, and you know, youth missing their mother. That's why we have
Oh.
female mentors.
Really big what
Yeah.
we're talking about, and people, I mean, self-esteem is just so immersed in what our parents think of us, you know. And if
Absolutely.
one of them is missing, and you're missing that piece, that feminine or that masculine energy that helps us feel good about ourselves and our future, you're missing a big piece. Well, you're doing such
Incredible
important work.
Yes.
Thank you.
What were you doing before the foundation? What was the lead up to? What a wobbly mic.
Well, you were
Yeah,
working
what
with
was your
you
work?
at
No, I wasn't working with that youth.
No.
I was just an ordinary guy,
Doing what?
just working and making a living.
making a living,
That was
just
it.
trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
But you know what? You said something interesting. We've talked about this on the show before because you're all involved in this, and I know Dell and I feel a sense of this. Legacy is important. It's important not just if you have children or if you don't, but the way we put back into the gift that we have of life and the way that we can give back, I think is one of the most important things that we can do. And to figure out our purpose is very difficult. And both of you had kind of, like you said, you had these aha moments that kind of came along. For you, it was almost, you know, like an earth angel that changed things for you. And then you had this friend that was irritating you, and what you didn't want to do was become him. So you shifted that thought to what can I do to be a better me and leave a legacy. I love that.
Yeah.
The world would be an amazing place if everybody could turn
Well, if
things
everybody
into
copped to their projections, you know.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it's-
that's basically what you did.
Yeah.
Is you're sitting there finding fault, but you're able to turn the focus back on yourself and say, well, what am I doing with my life?
Absolutely.
yeah.
So that was really amazing. So I want to
yeah.
talk about a little bit about. We've talked about, you know, children growing up without father figures or mother figures, but what are some of the other challenging factors? I know we mentioned there's gang involvement, there's race issues and immigration. There's so much that's
Right.
bubbling up right now. What would you say are some of the most pronounced things that you're seeing in the young people you're working with?
I think one of the things that we talked about earlier.
We have a
was-
call.
Oh,
Ooh,
okay.
sorry, I didn't mean
Sorry.
to.
We will
Before
come
you
back
get
to you,
going.
Clyde.
Okay.
So, hello, caller. How are you?
Hello.
Hi.
who
What's
is-
your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Matt. I'm calling from Pasadena.
Wonderful.
Hi, Matt.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to our show. Are you listening?
Do you have a question or a comment?
I am listening. I'm actually.
good.
Jordan is my godfather, and I'm also one of the heroes of.
I'm sorry, say that again. You're one of the what?
No, I'm just saying Jordan, who's on the podcast with Clyde and Del and Deb. He's my godfather, and I'm also a hero for the Anything Is Possible Foundation.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, so you went through the Hero program. And how has it impacted your life? Oh, you
Yeah,
know
how
what?
has it-
Can you turn your volume down for us, Matt? Because we can hear ourselves.
Sure.
There we
Yeah.
go. Okay.
Yeah.
So how is working with Jordan's organization impacted your life?
In so many different ways. One of the biggest things, and first off, I really do want to acknowledge, Clyde and Jordan. One of the things that I've really seen for myself is how important it is to have, mentors, leaders, and people who really listen to me bigger than I listen to myself as. And that's really what the intent is with Anything Is Possible Foundation. So I've had the profound opportunity to work with a kid who, in all honesty, in my own experience of my life, has had the worst experiences that I've ever seen. And is it okay if I just share a little bit?
Oh, of course.
About
Go
my-
ahead.
Yeah, just don't mention the name.
Yeah.
Anonymity.
I've been working. Yeah, and you know, circumstantially, he was 13 years old when he was at home with his mother, and his uncle came in and shot and killed her.
Ooh.
And he died. He literally saw his mom die in front of him.
Yeah, that's
Horrible.
And,
terrible.
he was 15 years old at the time, and you know, I don't even know what life would be like for somebody at that age, let alone, you know, somebody at that age. And when I first met him, you know, the experience that I had was like that of meeting a dog that had been beaten, you know, tail between the legs, wouldn't look me in the face, and it was not easy for me to interact with him. And one of the things that I've really developed and really saw for myself is, how can I listen to him in a way in which I can create a space for him to step into and to really live a life of possibility. And so that's really what I was able to do with him. And just circumstantially, you know, with whatever circumstances that he was going through, you know, he was failing a lot of his classes, wasn't showing up, had very little friends, and he was overweight. And one of the big things that I really got to stand for was I got to stand for his life. And by listening to him bigger than who he listened to himself as, I really got to work hand in hand with him and actually build a life that he could step into. You know, a lot of times these kids at such a young age, even though they're so young, based off of their circumstances, they don't have access to anything beyond what they know.
Absolutely.
And inside of that particular circumstances, it's very limited. And a lot of these kids, you know, don't necessarily have the mentorship, don't necessarily have the guidance, leadership, or access to producing anything beyond what they currently know.
Yeah.
And that's really the Anything is Possible Foundation really stepping in and, you know, taking responsibility that, you know what, for our youth, we get to say exactly how their life goes.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
love
only
that
going-
you. I love that you said that you wanted to create a space for him to living a life of possibility.
Yeah.
That's a great phrase.
Yeah, that
That's
is amazing.
so important to anybody in anybody's life.
And I want to point out that Matthew is 22 as well.
I was just about to
Just
say that. I
young.
can tell that I was going to ask his age, because clearly you've got some mentors that are peers a lot of the time, or just a few years older. So
Yes.
I think that's really important.
Gives
for
a
them
lot
to-
of
Real-
hope.
relatedness.
Relatability.
They can
relatability,
relate.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for calling today and sharing your experience. That was wonderful.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. So,
Big.
yeah, we were, that was really amazing, really
Very
incredible.
big.
So let's get to some of the specific problems I know that you see. We talked about race, immigration. There's so many. I mean, you mentioned earlier the suicide or all these issues that are facing our youth today. So share a little bit about some of those.
Well, you know, after the Anthony Bourdain thing and was Kate Spade, is it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I started looking at, and I actually wrote a post on my Facebook page. It's like, you know, we think that if I get this material thing, will have arrived, and it's never that. It's always something underneath that, and it's like we're, you know, after 35 years of being, you know, in the field, and you know, because when I first went to the Marines, one of my good friends was killed in Beirut when they blew up the embassy there, and you know, and a friend of mine killed in El Salvador when they shot some Marines in El Salvador, and so but you just learn to put those things away. And then during Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, I was one of the senior enlisted people running the morgue. And so I got to see all the bodies coming in. Well, when you see the bodies, there's just, there's nothing, it's just a body, right? But when you see the body and when you see the actual kid on TV and you see his family, then it becomes real. But you know, your job is to make sure that you send that body home with dignity, and so then you put all that other stuff aside and you do your job. And there's really no place to go to purge. You know, you're just supposed to man up and suck it up. So I remember coming to the sheriff's department and I took my psych eval, and the lady told me, she says, you know, were you disturbed? And I was like, no, this is my job. I had a responsibility, and I was disqualified.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so then I went back and I was like, so you're going to make me have a feeling that I don't have. When I went back, I passed my psych eval course because I, 25 years
they
later,
wanted.
right?
Yeah.
Well, no, I just the lady that I was with, the second lady understood, right?
Okay.
She completely understood where I was. Like I had a responsibility, and I had other people that were counting on me because I was a leader, for them to focus on the mission, not on our personal feelings about something. And so I learned then to shut up, right? So being in shootings or seeing someone dead or witnessing tragedy, you learn to put it away, and you pull up your bootstraps and you go to the next call, and you go to the next call, and you go to the next call. And after I retired, I realized that I didn't have to wear that veil anymore, and then all of those things started coming back to me. And but there was really no one I could go to process, because everybody wanted to fix me, right?
Yeah, you can't be
And
fixed.
so and sometimes I just wanted to purge, and
That's what you needed to do.
and so a lot of those things started coming back up, and so then like going to the VA would have been like a sign of weakness, so I thought, right? And so like, where do I go and get this
The
help,
support.
right? And so I posted this thing. I said, we're all going through something. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much you're on the ball. We're all going through something. And, whether, like, I don't know if I would ever commit suicide. I can't say never, but I would like to think that if somebody ever told you I committed suicide, it's really a homicide, right? Like, you might want to send investigators to that, because I wouldn't kill myself. But you never know, right? Like, so we're all dealing with something. And so, it was an opportunity for me to really look at what am I dealing with in life? And I just needed somewhere to purge. And the fact that I was even able to say that gave me a lot of freedom. And so I started looking at, when I was in the field, how many young people were like calling the police so that we would kill them.
Yeah.
Right, and there's
That was
five
suicide by
situations.
cop.
Yeah, five
Yeah.
situations that I know
Big now.
personally, where a young kid told me, said, I'll give you two. One kid who worked at a mental health institute, place in Santa Monica. I said, man, you work in Santa Monica, you can just go chill on the beach and like watch the sunset. He says, man, I don't have that luxury. He says, when I get back to my neighborhood, he says, I have to leave early enough so that I don't get caught by gang members, because I got to go through several gang areas to get to work. And when I go home, I got to get there and I got to traverse through all these neighborhoods so that I don't get killed. He says, so he said, he told his mother, he says, tell the police when they get here, they're going to have to kill me. And so when he heard the racking of the stun bag gun, he, that pretty much changed. And so when I had the conversation with him, I'm asking him, like, what are you thinking? He says, man, do you know how stressful it is to be 23 years old? And he says, if I get killed by a Mexican, my life doesn't mean anything. If I get killed by somebody black, my life doesn't mean anything. If I get killed by y'all, my life means something.
So is
Right.
that's
Unbelievable.
is that true for many of these cases? So they want, or are they trying to go out with meaning so that way they'll make the news?
Well, I don't know really so much. I don't know if they put that much thought into it. It's just that if they get killed by a minority, they're just another statistic.
Right.
That if they're killed by the police, then maybe somebody will give them some
start paying
recognition.
attention.
And it's a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah,
We don't have a lot of
exactly.
time
No,
to talk
exactly.
about
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
for somebody who is
Yeah.
listening, going, well, it's more than that. It is a lot
Yeah,
more than that.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that.
right.
And
Yeah.
of course, it's a lot more than
And so, and then there was a young Latina girl who, her family was deep in the Mexican mafia, and like like generation after generation after generation had been involved in gangs, and she fell in love with this black kid, and her family wouldn't embrace that, and so she was like, well, if I can't love the person I want, and they family disclaimed her and like shunned her, and so she wanted to kill her, so she had a knife. And she kept like prodding us, and we got the knife from her, but I start thinking, like, how many kids out there are like this,
Yeah.
right? Like that are dealing with these issues.
Yeah.
And so when I was talking to Jordan, when he said yes, it was like, well, this would be perfect, because even me working with the parents, there's somebody that needs to work with their kids.
Yeah.
Because no one's speaking really I mean, even if you go to the suburbs, I mean, like, people aren't really speaking possibility. You say possibility, but it's a word that's been thrown out, like transformation is kind of
Exactly,
loosely used.
yeah.
But when when you really talk about what's possible, like really to the core of what's possible, like
Right. You get
even
down to-
going back to Genesis, right? Like I say, and it's so, right? Like having somebody really get they have that kind of power. And so like even with anything is possible foundation, it's not about like rah motivation type stuff. It's like, okay, that happened. Now how can we empower you
Yeah.
to be
Right.
greater
Exactly.
than the circumstance?
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
'Cause
So
you
it's
have
not
to
it's
break.
so it's not happening to me.
Yeah.
It's happening for me. Now how
Exactly.
can I use that?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Because there's so much. I mean, like you said before, there's so much in there. There's family bonds. There's limited, belief systems that have been in place for so many years that people can't even separate from that.
Right.
They believe that thought is them.
Right.
And they don't know that it actually can change.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. I was going to ask you that. So you don't just work with the individual, with the youth. You actually work with the parents as well. So you work with the whole unit. Is that correct? Yeah.
Well, that's been my thing, and I think as we're looking at this, you can't build this dream with a young person and then send them home to a
Exactly.
foundation that's broken, because some of the parents will be like, well, they told you this, they sold you a dream, and will kill the kid's dream. And sometimes it's better to leave them where they are than show them something. So it's almost better to know that it's better to be poor than know that that there's something else. Because when you're poor, you don't know you're poor.
You don't know
right?
the difference,
And then you
yeah.
actually see
To
something
know
and
the
you go, wow,
difference.
like why aren't we living that way?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah, and some children feel that they're rejecting their parents or their culture if they were to break away from that
Yeah.
that limited way of existing. that
at
limited
times,
life.
yes.
Wow.
And I'm just so amazed at the process to understand that and then know the process that it takes to show them the possibilities, that they are real, that they are tangible, and all possibilities are different
Right.
depending on who the child is and what where they've come from, what the
Right.
parent involvement is or isn't, and giving them and knowing how to do that. How is that process? How does it break down is what I want to know.
Well, we talked about this earlier. It's like, we go through I got this from Michael Beckwith, my mentor, the 4 stages of consciousness, the victim stage, blame, shame, guilt, the manifestation stage, the channel stage, channel consciousness, and then being consciousness. And so, it's us as mentors being able to deal with whatever we got going on around blame, shame, guilt, and getting that resolved with ourselves. And then getting the manifestation that we're not doing it by ourselves, we're doing it with the higher source, with coming from a higher power. And then not having the answer for a young person, because everybody has their own individual
I was
answer.
just going to say
right?
that's the big one.
Right.
Yeah,
Is
And
their
it's
own
huge.
insights.
Yeah.
And then so really being a channel to speak to them, being a channel from God, from the universe, from your
Okay.
higher power, and then being able to speak into that kid's life what is being asked of them at that time, because what I'm going to tell them is whatever I want to tell them, how my life works or how his life works, but really, like, when I just allow myself to be the channel, the answer comes through me, or I'll say something and I'll go, I don't know where that came from, but that kid goes, yeah, or the parent goes, man, don't say anymore, I got it, so.
Right. So that's amazing. So you're just basically pointing them into the direction that they have the answers within them. They
Yeah.
they
To
have
show
their
them.
own innate wisdom.
Yeah, you have a saying. You say, "I'm not here to give you anything, just here to remind you what you already
I
have."
love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a quote that's on your
Yes, exactly.
website, and I love it because if more people did that with people who are going through whatever they're going through, and can just let it happen for them.
And there's also providing a listening, a space of listening, so that they can show up inside of that space and they can share what they're really committed to and what they really want in life.
Yeah.
And then once we get present to that, we can all stand for it.
No, exactly. It's holding
Exactly.
the space without judgment or without anything, just seeing, who they are, listening to them and allowing them to express. And sometimes that journey to finding that answer within it's a meandering
Right.
path.
It's a journey.
It is.
Yeah.
So just holding the space for them to access that themselves is beautiful. So what would you say is the most the issue that's most prevalent right now, would you say? Have you noticed a change, or has it always been the same sort of things?
For me, I think, there. This is a great time. You know, the world as we know it shifted about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we're like in a new quantum space, so to speak, and things are like moving with velocity. If you haven't noticed, even in your personal life, where you put something out and it's like it just happened. So like even with this, like just it seems like just the velocity just over the last month or so has just been like tremendous, the momentum, So one of the things that exist, I think, with the immigration thing, with racism, it's just opening up opportunities, or opening up portals for people to move through, and for us to transform something.
That's
and
wonderful.
so it's a great opportunity. So we could look at it as 4 years of hell, or we could look at it as 4 years of opportunity. Right?
Yeah,
right.
that's a great.
Right, and
yeah.
so
Yeah,
and
it's
so
true.
so we can't want to transform some things and not all things. So it's all interlinked. And so, what is this? Is an opportunity for me to look at. Okay, here I am sitting next to Jordan, like we're brothers. Like, so we can show that to other people, that there doesn't have to be a difference because, this person is this color, this person is this color. Okay, well, it doesn't have to be this because you come from this social economic background and I come from this one. Like, it doesn't have to be this way because you're Republican or Democrat, right? Or independent. Like, really, all of that's made up.
Yeah,
right.
That's
So,
wonderful, because
yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. I'm just thinking, I mean, prejudice doesn't necessarily have to be about race or color. It can be, just like you said, political party.
Right.
Being prejudiced around that.
Right.
Which some of us are guilty of. So anyway, yeah, that's amazing. That's really great. So I love that you feel hopeful, because I mean, sometimes it can seem like things are.
Yeah.
From my perspective, regressing a little.
Right.
So it's wonderful.
Well,
that
sometimes you got to take a step back to take a leap forward, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So-
And sometimes things have to kind of knock you over to
Yeah.
open
Right.
your eyes, like you were saying, and that's opportunity knocking.
Well, Michael said something the other day. Michael Beckwith said something the other day. He said, when you plant a seed, the seed has to start to die as it's searching for the sun, right?
Wow.
And so, as we're
Struggle.
looking for as we're looking for this new emergence, the part of us has to die, right? And a lot of times we want to hold on to that old thing and create this new thing, and that's like putting, like clean water inside of a tainted container,
Yeah.
And so, and I think that's what we're doing, is we're really looking to push out beyond those boundaries, and none of us know what that looks like right now, right? So,
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you, just for both of your organizations, how do you get your leaders, your for you? I mean, just for our audience to know, like, how do you go into the prison system? You go into the juvenile detention, or how do they come to you? Are they is it a requirement? Are they voluntary? And then I want to ask Jordan the same thing.
for me, I won't let it be a requirement,
Okay.
because it has to be. They have to be involved in their transformation.
Yeah.
Right.
Self-generated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
So how does it all manifest to
so,
come to you?
Because over the years we've shown proof, right? And so a lot of it is by word of mouth through other graduates that have come. And I have people that email me from prison all the time. Hey, I heard about you. Can I get in your program when I got out of prison? So it's by word of mouth, and then federal probation has been really great at sending people. And when they come, we give them the option. We tell them what the program is, and we tell them that it's going to be in your face, and they choose to be in it or not. And then some are gang members that I run. Like, I'm out in the streets all the time, so I'm like talking to people, like, yo, man, is this what you want to do? If you don't want to do that, then let's do. And I give them a brief snapshot of the program. They're like, man, where is this at? Well, come over here. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
That's
so-
incredible.
Yeah.
Now, do you ever go? Do you go into the prisons and do this as well, or wait for people to
Like parole? Do you
Yeah.
work with parole officers?
I work
or?
more with parole and probation.
Mhm.
I did go into the jails, but it's I'm short on resources, so I we've been more by word of mouth and like some addiction programs where people were in like recovery. Some recovery programs have worked with us because we go a lot deeper into. We deal with the ontology, not just the book stuff. Like, okay, well, there's things that 12-step says that I can agree with, but there's certain things that I
No,
don't.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
like the I am.
Yeah.
Like the I am that I am. Like I would never say that I'm an addict because
Exactly.
that's saying that the God in me is an addict, and so. But we empower them to choose whatever works for them best. If it empowers you to say that, then say that. If it empowers you to say that who you would be if you weren't an addict, and then acknowledge you have an addiction,
Yeah.
then do that. But whatever works best for you, don't let somebody crack your head open and pour it in and tell you this is how you have to live
Exactly.
your
You
life.
just empower
This-
them
Yeah.
to whatever works
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
What
I mean,
works,
I was
that's the
listening-
key.
Yeah, I was listening. I'm on a part of a thing this morning, a mentorship program, and I was listening, and the man that was speaking said, it's basically we all speak different languages. Some people speak French, some people speak English, whatever, and whatever language works for you.
Right.
Come to them with
And the
their
same,
language.
yeah, and the same with the 12-step program. It works for some people, but I personally agree with that to identify as damaged or an addict would not work in my language.
Right.
Because I think we are all totally at our essence,
But at least
just
you
perfect
find
and
them.
whole.
Right.
At least you find them what works for them.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the key.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
Jordan,
There's no dogma.
Yes.
how does it work for your organization?
So for our organization, it's similar to Clyde's, where it's by word of mouth, and the mentors / heroes are required to be in some type of transformational conversation, and where we've been going to is they're graduates of landmark education, and that they get versed inside of the conversation where they're trained on how to listen for and reliably deliver on what matters to the other person, and because we're responsible for who we put in front of the youth, and that they can actually communicate and listen for what the youth is bumping up against and what their circumstance is, so that they can empower them.
So this is a program that you have to they go through for I'm talking about for the
clients or the
The mentors.
Yeah,
The
the
mentors,
mentors
yes.
go
Mentors.
through like
Yeah.
a 3-4 day program, correct?
And
And-
then once they're a graduate, they then come to us, and then we have a hero mentor orientation,
Right.
and then they get trained and developed on how to actually deal with the youth,
Yeah.
Right.
which is what we had over the weekend.
And then the
Yeah.
youth comes to you through mostly
Yes,
word
via-
of mouth and
Correct.
through
Through word of mouth, we're partnering with youth organizations. We partner
Okay.
with the school districts. Correct.
Good.
Yeah, and
So-
and the ages of your children are from 7 to 17.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So yes, so there has to be family involvement and
Yes.
permission and things.
And
like
then
that.
you
Live
guys
scans and
overlap
background check.
in
Yeah.
helping each other with the
Yeah.
youth and
Yes.
stuff too.
So when it works, like if I can refer the young people from the people that I work with over to anything as a possible foundation, as well as when we get other referrals in from kids at large or from school districts, and maybe the parents need something, they can refer them over to us. And so
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
So, Kaz, I want to ask you, how has being a mentor impacted you in your life?
Well, at this point right now, I haven't mentored anybody through Hero or through AIPF as a hero. I'm signed up to do it once things start rolling through with the organizations that they're partnering with.
That's the landmark you mentioned.
Yeah,
So you
the-
take.
Oh no, I've taken
Oh, you've done
Landmark.
that? Yeah.
Okay.
I've been in the education for the last 7 years, 8 years now.
Okay.
Um,
So you're well qualified.
I am well qualified.
I love it.
But through the mentoring that I've done with the people that I've coached, at least, I can definitely say that, and especially for people my age, 22 or younger, in that teen to young adult area,
Tough years.
maybe things, the circumstances aren't as extreme as what you guys have been talking about for most people, but the circumstances for each individual
gonna say.
are very substantial to that individual, right?
Of course.
And
especially when you're young like that.
Yeah.
And so most people between the ages of 7 through 22 or whatever, most people in general don't have access to a conversation with somebody who's really willing to listen to that person differently than the people who are already in their lives or their peers. And there's a certain level of what's possible that's passed around through people who are already in your circle, and most people aren't ever able to transcend that. And so I see a lot of people around my age who aren't able to have conversations about things that really matter to them. And so they do whatever that people our age do to try to get
out.
over it
Yeah.
without
Numb out.
actually having to deal with it.
Yeah. There's all forms of numbing out when you're
Yeah.
trying to suppress pain.
But it must make you feel really good that you can get to that level.
Yeah.
To know that they're being hurt, to have them know that you hear them in the way that matters for them,
Totally.
and to make a difference in their lives. To open up that door of possibilities.
Yeah.
It's
very
must feel really good.
rewarding.
And look at how young you are. You have such a.
Thank you.
Where are you going to go from here? Whoa.
Well, one of the
And so-
pillars of being a hero in the organization is that we have to take on being a hero everywhere in our lives. And so-
at your everyday life.
Yeah.
And just
Describe
being
that.
kind.
What
yeah,
does
what
that
is
look
that?
like?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what that looks like is, when you're faced with somebody who's dealing with something, it's just like, oh, okay, that's, that sucks, right? It's more than just that sucks.
Yeah.
What else
How
is
are you
going on,
gonna-
right?
Yeah.
It's really like, oh, tell me about that. And what must that be like for you? And
So
let
that-
me
so
get into
outs-
your world.
So outside of your actually when you're coaching, you're like that with your friends and everybody
Yeah.
you encounter in life.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I make
That's
it a
really
point to-
wonderful.
It sounds like the program can help everyone with
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
being kind and gentle
Yeah.
and hearing and listening and approaching different than that's a drag, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry you're going through that. That's like thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
We're beyond thoughts and prayers. Now we need to step up, and
Yeah.
it sounds like your program gives people the tools
Yeah.
to step up.
It's
and
really
to
on
do
the
that.
court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very. And how did you develop that program? What's it based on, and where did you come up with the curriculum for?
And how long has
'cause
it been going?
Yeah, I looked at all each day hits on different subjects that you dig deep into.
Right. So we have two curriculums. We have a transformational curriculum and we have an academic curriculum. And one of the great things about our organization is that when we work with other organizations, we can work inside of what they're committed to as well. So we can adjust it and revise it and stay true to what we're committed to, right? Which is our mission, which is to provide that listening.
Yeah. And what are some of the other organizations that you're working with,
that
in
you
besides
partner with?
Landmark? You mentioned that.
Yeah.
but-
So Landmark is really the foundation of the philosophy,
I
right?
was
The
just gonna say,
fundamentals,
yeah.
of providing a certain type of listening, giving up being right about things so that you can actually get into somebody else's world.
As there is
right,
no
'cause
right.
we go around being right about everything, right? So
Right.
it's one of the
It's a
fundamentals
ego.
as an example. Yeah, and so we're in the process of working. We have a pilot program that's most likely going to start in August with Breesy Youth Foundation in Los Angeles, and we're in the process of working with the Alhambra School District. Yeah, so those are two foundations, and then we're working inside of communities. Like Matthew that called in, he's working inside of the Pasadena community where we work off referrals.
Okay.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Got it.
Now, how long have you been part of Landmark? I mean, when did you first get exposed to that?
I first did the Landmark Forum if Kaz did it 7 years ago, I did it 8 years ago, about seven and a half
and
years
what
ago.
got you into that? Just curious.
Oh no, it's a great story actually.
We love those stories.
I recently got married. Kaz's mother and myself were divorced, and met my wife now, and she had done Landmark back in 2000, and so we had just gotten married, and something had happened where I lied to her, and she said to me, "You have no integrity." And I said, "Oh, I have integrity. I show up on time. I pay my bills." And she said, "No. You just have no integrity. You don't know what integrity is. It really is." And she said, "I'd like you. If you don't get what integrity is, our marriage is going to be a rocky one."
Right.
And I said, "Listen, I don't want a rocky marriage. So tell me what I got to do."
Yeah.
And she said, "I want you to go to this weekend curriculum. It's called Landmark." And I said, I'm in. Sign me up.
And
that was
that's how
it.
it all
Very good.
started.
And that's how it all
off you
started.
took
And that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm unrecognizable now compared to the man I was before.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
For those to get in,
And he can tell you that too.
and what a great, yeah, and again, I mean, how old were you? Like 13, 12 or 13
I was
when you
14.
took it? 14.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're 22. And so, I mean, what a great beginning. It's
Yeah.
like every teenager going through Landmark would have these skills, these life, this great way to navigate
It's
other
actually
people
one of
and
our-
themselves.
It's actually one of our, yeah, absolutely.
So
And
important.
it's one of the things that we're committed to with all of the money that we get donated, that donates to our
Yeah.
foundation,
Well-
is to putting the youth through this type of transformational
Yeah.
curriculum.
That's incredible. So,
Yeah. So-
while we're on that
yeah.
subject, we don't want to run out of time. How do people?
That's what I was going to
Yes.
ask. Yep.
How do people support you, and how do you raise your funds? Through private donation, or what?
Right.
What do you?
Yeah, so on the website, there's a donate button.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. Or they can email us and contact us.
And the website is anything is
So
possible.
there's a shortened version of it.
Okay.
It's www.theaipf.org.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Theaipf.org or anythingispossiblefoundation.org.
Wonderful.
And on your
Clyde,
website, you also have a way to volunteer and get involved. Where
Yes.
people have to go. In order to
Be a mentor?
you have to go through the Landmark
You have to.
program, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you have to find the program in your state because
Yes.
I noticed there are programs. Well, Landmarks all over the
Worldwide.
country. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so you just have to find the time to take those 3-4 days.
Yes,
Are
it's
they
a
usually
weekend.
over a weekend?
It's a
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So now to
Clyde.
emerging
Yeah.
leadership. Do you have the same requirements for mentors that work within your?
For me, it's some consciousness training. It may be Landmark, it may be a practitioner, it may be Santa Monica was SMC or
USM.
USM. But they have to have some level of consciousness because they can't be a victim with a victim.
No, exactly.
Right.
Not gonna. That's a,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
a, that's a,
That's just a complaining. That's
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a
mothers.
dance going
Right.
nowhere.
Housewives.
Yeah. So like I was telling, we were talking Saturday, and we were saying,
It's Real
when
Housewives.
someone comes to you and says, hey, like my house got shot up and da da da. Well, I lost this family member. Be empathetic, but you can't take it on and then try to want to fix it.
Yeah.
Right. So you now I'm taking this in. Now how do I clear myself in that space immediately and then empower them or just listen to what's there for them and then ask the questions that would give them access to something else. And so it's really about seeing where they are because I'm a Landmark guy as well, but I have a host of modalities that I'm a hypnotherapist, I do NLP, and then being with Michael Beckwith and learning from the spiritual perspective, so there's many ways to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And so my thing is what do they need, right? And so whatever they need is what I'm gonna go to work on and figure out what do I need to get in order to give them what they need.
Yeah.
And so for emerging leaders, I've been paying for this out of my pocket for quite a while. And so same thing, emerging leaders 360.org, and people can go and donate, and people who are, my goal is to really, I'm going to put this out there. Ooh.
See
on.
how things come to you.
I really want to. I really want us to be international. I want to go to England. I want to go to Panama. I want to go to Brazil. I want to go to places because it's a collective consciousness is going to cause the world to change. We can't. I don't know why we think everything in America is going to like. I remember when they talked about the world was going to end. And it was and it's like the world's going to end, and it's like, well, and I was still working with the sheriff's department then, and I was telling one of the deputies, I said, look, the world hasn't ended in Australia, so it's we're okay, right?
Yeah.
And it's like everything doesn't start in America.
That's so good.
America's the genesis of a lot of things, but it's a collective consciousness. If we're doing it here, 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 and here, then we can begin to, envelop the we can cause some magic to happen.
Yes.
So,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
The whole ripple effect is so
Exactly,
important when you
yeah.
have a passion. What kind of commitment, volunteer-wise, are we talking about if they get involved with you, Jordan? I mean, I know they go through the Landmark program, and then what is it? Like
It's a minimum of 6 months that they have to be, because these
Okay.
youth, we need to give them somebody that they can
Yes.
count on.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Right.
They
Stability.
have to have
Absolutely.
consistency. So it's a 6-month minimum and a 12-month maximum.
okay, and how often are they?
Depends on
the
the
schedules
partnership.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I
got
just
it.
ask why there's
Uh-huh.
a maximum? You said a 12-month maximum.
Well, we look at it and we reevaluate it.
I see.
And if
okay.
they can continue with
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah,
yes,
because I
absolutely.
imagine
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the relationship would continue
sure.
because it's important to them, especially
Absolutely.
with a
Yeah.
parent missing like
Yes.
that. So
and the
it's
same with you,
yeah.
Clyde, in your organization. What commitment?
Well, our turnover is every 6 weeks. So, yeah, we would love longer, but we're dealing with adults, and so not so much
With
like
busy
young
schedules
people.
and things. you say.
Most of my clientele are adults. They're
Yes.
so
young
Yeah.
adults.
they get it, but we also make ourselves available when they come back for mentoring or just a space for them to be in where they can have conscious conversations, not just going back to, oh man, well let me tell you, I just got shot and da da da, and then the next person tell them how they got shot. Like no, let's empower you. Like so, nobody cares what conversation you're having at the Starbucks over here. Because they're having a money conversation over here and they're having a money conversation over here. There's just there's two distinctly different money conversations. One's talking about lack and one's talking about abundance. So we just want to change the conversation. So we're looking for people who can stand that conversation. So a lot of our graduates become mentors. They become our
Yeah.
facilitators.
And what you're talking about, like
Wonderful.
with Jackie,
Yes,
and how
absolutely.
she's doing that.
Absolutely.
I mean, and people really respond to that because they've been there, done that,
Yeah.
and take it from me. Look
Yeah.
I've changed my life, kind of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is really wonderful. Anything before we run
Yeah,
out of
anything
time
coming up?
that you want to make an announcement about? Any fundraising, any programs, any?
I would just
anything?
say that anybody that's interested in becoming a mentor, or if there's anybody out there that's listening that's affiliated with schools or youth organizations that are in need of mentors, please reach out to us.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Absolutely.
And just for people out there that say I'm too busy, I don't have time. What if they could only give you a day or something like that?
Let's have
or-
a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Good.
there's no
So you're not going to
Yeah.
turn
Yeah.
somebody
No, we're
away
open
who's
to all
interested.
conversations.
Okay.
And
I'll
for
just
you,
say
Clyde?
this. I'd love to say more about emerging leaders, but I'll say this. We have way more mentees than we have mentors. So
You're always in
Just
need.
come for the
You're in
conver-
need.
come
okay,
and have the
that's what
conversation.
we're asking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of things
Thank
are up on the
you.
screen. We have to go, but we got to thank you
Yes.
guys
Thank
for
you.
taking the
Amazing.
time and the work
Yeah.
that you're doing.
Yeah. Really incredible.
Just
Thank you.
You're
can't
making a
be
difference
enough
in the
can be
world.
said about
Thank you for the opportunity.
how amazing you guys are. So thank you.
you.
Continue to do what you do, and we'll keep revisiting it.
Yes,
Thank you so much,
definitely.
and we thank you. We're Del and Debbie, Mind, Body, Soul. We're going to see everybody next
Next
week
week.
right here at 1:00.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Have a great week. Bye bye.